iTestify is about testifying of what Jesus Christ has done and can do in each of our lives. Through testimony of people just like you, and through study of His Word, our prayer is to encourage each follower of Christ to be a light in this world. So let your light shine before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16.
Hi, and thank you for joining us again on iTestify today. We're very blessed to have you guys as viewers. And today we have Julie and Kevin joining us. Julie and Kevin have been brought together for a particular ministry that's very unique, and I think is very needed. I know, Julie, you said you're a registered dietitian and you're an engineer. And can you tell us a little bit more about how God is using you?
Absolutely. Over the last year and a half, we've been on a journey to become foster parents. And so we received the first child placed in our home about 5 months ago.
Oh, wow.
So that's been our ministry lately.
Yeah. Been quite the adventure. We kind of just dove into it, seeing that there was a need, and just hope God would give us what we need to, do the task He's given us. And it's been a whirlwind, but I think it's the best thing we've ever done, to be honest.
Yeah. Was there anything that you can think back on that you thought maybe God was leading you into this, or is it just a surprise?
It's something that I'd always wanted to do as I'd become aware of the needs of children in foster care and just the enormity of that need. For example, we live in Pasadena, part of LA County, and there are over 30,000 children in foster care in LA County alone.
Just that kind of,
Wow.
To put that in perspective for our viewers here, that's about the size of Loma Linda.
Wow.
So the entire population of Loma Linda, foster children just in LA County. So realizing the enormity of the need was part of that, and kind of having always had a heart to want to help with that. What held us back for a while was this idea that people who do foster care have to be super saints, maybe with a big house to be able to take in, 6, 8 kids. And the more we saw people that we knew, regular people, being foster parents and doing that, taking in 1 child, 2 children, the more possible it seemed. And so we started to pursue that for ourselves.
And can you do us a favor and let us know the difference between fostering children and adopting children?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's an important distinction. So fostering, in foster care, children for whatever reason can no longer be with their parents, but there's still a chance that they can be reunited with their family.
Okay.
That is the goal of foster care. With adoption, I think we all understand that the goal is to get that child, bring that child into your family, which is a very important ministry. But foster care is unique in that the goal is to get the child back into the family, to reunify the family, and bring healing to that family. Because, hopefully the parents are trying to do what they need to do to get custody of their children again and reunite the family. So my initial thought of what foster care is you're just helping the child out through whatever they've been through, whatever experiences they've been through. But it's more than that. It's the family as well. And, as we're getting into this and meeting other foster parents and stuff, we hear these amazing stories of not just did the kid recover from all that they were going through, but their family brought so much healing came to them, and that's the ultimate goal. That's best case scenario. But it's a unique challenge. It's fostering can turn into adoption down the road if it goes that way. But yeah, that's plan B. Plan A is reunify the family. So that's our ministry.
Is there an age range?
Children in foster care can be anywhere from newborns up through 18, and even there are certain cases that can be up to 21, I believe, depending on their needs. We're limited to young children due to our home situation. We have a 1-bedroom apartment, so we can only have children under 2 who don't legally need their own bedroom. So we're just taking infants at this point.
I have so many questions, but I can't ask them all. But I was curious because, you mentioned that you can also help the families. Are you interacting with the families in any way? Do you take the children to see them, or how does that work?
Yeah, ideally, while a child is in foster care, they have regular visitations with their parents. So with the first child who came into our home, she was a newborn girl. We'll just call her Baby C.
Okay.
And so she came into our home and our life at 2 days old. And we picked her up straight from the hospital. It was a beautiful moment. And about a week later, I met her mom when I went to take her to visitations and was able to develop a relationship with her mom over the next couple months that we had her in our home. And so it was really special to be able to kind of start that relationship with the mother as well as, of course, with Baby C. And it was an opportunity to encourage her to be able to, bring her photos of her baby and tell her stories of how C was doing, and really to be able to try to minister to her in a Christ-like way as much as possible and build that friendship with her too.
And as foster parents, often we can often be the biggest advocates for the parents who are trying to turn things around and get back to their family. So we do have an opportunity not only witness but to advocate and to give them the support they need. Like in her case, like she felt like the world had been against her. Even with her family and stuff, that no one's out there to support her in what she needs to do to get the family back together. So we have a chance to do that, and we get to help there.
Powerful, beautiful story. Were you going to say something? Please.
No, go ahead.
No, I'll wait. I'll jump in after you.
Lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Okay. No worries. This is such a beautiful story. Just to kind of change the focus, as two pillars in the home, husband and wife, and both of you guys are professional, how has this experience brought you closer to God or closer to each other? Because, even starting a family on your own, that's always a big decision. So tell us a little bit about that introspective kind of growth.
Yeah.
I know it's two questions. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's foster care is tremendously challenging. Even if you have the easiest baby in the world. Our first baby was perfect. It was amazing. It was very, very easy with her. And she was so much fun, and it was so much rewarding. But it's a very, very challenging thing, and it does bring out a lot of ugly things in yourself that you didn't know were there, and which is wonderful because you get to address them.
That's
Once
true.
you see them in the light, you bring them out, hide from the closet and stuff. You bring them out, and you can address those issues and stuff. So it does. You have to be proactive with it. You have to be addressing each thing as it comes along and working together on those issues and stuff. But it is such a big room for growth. I mean, not just are the children getting a benefit here. We're growing a lot.
You're growing.
We're definitely getting a really good end of the deal here. So
It's been deeply humbling.
That's for certain.
Because you can prepare as much as you can possibly prepare, and yet when you're in the moment, you realize that preparation was good. It's important.
Yes.
But only by a living connection with God at every moment can you adequately parent any child, for that matter, not just a foster child.
That's true.
Absolutely.
And so it's definitely helped to deepen my reliance on God and shake me out of kind of the feeling that I can manage on my own most of the things that I face, because I definitely can't do this on my own. It's also definitely brought us closer together. First of all, and I think any parent can relate to this, seeing your spouse with a child, especially a baby, seeing them bonding with them, I mean, you just fall in love with them all over.
Oh, wow.
And I think that's universal to parenting. But yeah, it's definitely strengthened our communication. Like Kevin was saying, it brings up weaknesses that we weren't necessarily even aware of. So to be able to bring those up and address them is a blessing. Most couples who do foster care, I will say, do marriage counseling. Not necessarily because their marriages are falling apart, but because it is such a challenge that it's vitally important to keep your marriage strong through that. And so we probably will as a proactive thing, simply because you have to stay strong together.
I like that word, proactive.
To be able to provide for the needs of these children who have been through so much. I remembered what I was going to say. Can I go back to that?
Yes. Right.
Talk about ministering to families. It's important to remember that many of the parents of children in foster care were themselves children in foster care. and many who were not served well by the system. And now they have ended up as parents without the tools and skills to adequately parent their children. And so it's important to keep that empathy and compassion, knowing that maybe they've made bad choices, but they didn't make those bad choices from a place of, you know, a healthy background and all the skills in place and all that emotional stability, and then they just randomly made a bad choice. No, they've really had a tough life thus far themselves.
Yeah. I actually appreciate that perspective so much, because I think a lot the stigma probably is out there that they're just bad parents and we have to protect the children. But what you're talking about is also advocating for the family as well, the parents. And in that sense, you're giving them a second chance.
Yeah.
And, you know, this is exactly what Christ is calling us to do, to forgive over and over again. So I think it's a beautiful thing to bring in, and you're also teaching that to the children, whether or not they'll remember it or not. But, you know, that's nice. I really appreciate that.
Did you go through any type of training?
So there's a couple of ways to become a foster parent. Well, two in particular. You can foster either directly through the county that you live in, or you can foster through an agency. And there are many, many agencies. We chose to go through a Christian agency, and we absolutely love them. They're amazing. And so we highly recommend that. You get a lot more support through an agency. And they really advocate for you as a family, and offer a lot of services for us as a couple and a family, as well as for extra services for the children and their families. So they offered a lot of classes that we attended, classes on trauma-informed parenting, how to care for children who've come through hard places, as they say. So yeah, we attended several days of classes. I forget how many hours total.
Yeah.
I want to say 16, 18 hours, something like that.
Sounds right. Yeah.
But that was very helpful in knowing what to expect.
Yeah, exactly. Especially for us not having been parents before. We're kind of a little bit unique in that regard, that we haven't been parents. But most of the people we're in the classes with have several kids of their own and are getting to the point where, well, we can still keep helping down the road, but after they have some experience parenting, we just kind of went in cold turkey. They're like, oh, well, let's do it. Yeah. We've been wanting to have our kids have kids of our own later down the road, but seeing there's a need now, like, well, we have a unique opportunity to do this. Not everyone can do this. Yeah, but we have a financial situation and home situation where we can help with this. Or like, yeah.
You were willing, and God used you as willing people.
Yeah.
Do you also have a community of other foster parents that you can communicate with? Is that part of what the agency does?
Yes, absolutely. You go through the classes with another group of parents, and so some of those have become friends. But also there are support groups offered regularly. I think they have 5 support groups a month. I go to 1 a month, just for that connection with the other foster, mostly moms who attend. Although sometimes we have foster dads too. But anyways, that's been a blessing to hear their experiences, and it helps kind of encourage me on in the unique challenges that we face. Many of the challenges that I face are universal to parenting, especially with an infant. But it really does help to have that community of other Christians who are navigating this as a ministry.
Can you share something that you didn't expect going into this? The first thing that comes to mind. I'm sure there's a lot. But one thing that stands out, perhaps.
I don't think this answers that question, but I don't know. I expected it to be pretty difficult. I expected there would be a lot of heartbreak, and expected that we would get attached. And okay, so something we often hear when people are talking, or when we're talking to people about the foster ministry we're doing, is people often say, like, I couldn't do that. I'd get too attached, and I wouldn't be able to let them go.
Sure.
That is, if that's how you feel, that means you'd be a great foster parent. That's the goal. The goal is to attach to these kids and stuff. So the challenge, we were expecting that there's a chance that there'd be this heartbreak. So with our first baby M, or baby C, baby M is the current one, baby C, she did end up going back to her family And it ended up being an amazing reunification story. And it's so healthy. She's back with her family, and things are awesome. But it was very unexpected. We found out the day of that she was leaving, and we'd been told she was going to be with us for 6 months, like without a doubt, maybe even adopt her. So we let our hearts connect to her with the risk that our heart could be broken like that. And that was, when she left, that was one of the most difficult things we've been through, I think. It was very, very hard. But we knew that was coming, and yet even knowing it was coming, knowing that we are putting our hearts out there to be broken like that, still didn't quite prepare us for it. But we're so glad we did. I would do it over and over again, and when we hoped. I mean, that's because that is what these kids need. They need someone to love that way, love unconditionally, love like you're theirs, like your own children. I mean, that's the love that God has shown us, the way he has put his heart out on the line for us, the way he has opened up his heart to exposure to the possibility of us as humans being able to hurt God's heart. He made himself vulnerable in that way to us, just for the chance that we could be with him and that everything would go right for us. That's how much he loved us. And that is the love that these kids need, is the same exactly what's been shown to us. So, and seeing how going through this has really helped me understand that, understand the love that God has had for us, understand how much he has exposed himself, how much he's made himself vulnerable just for the chance that I might choose him. And so we're getting a lot out of this.
Absolutely. Are there certain verses in the Bible that you turn to or that you saw, oh, I identify with that now,
Yeah.
that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah. Let's see. Well, I think the first one we got that we come to is 1 Peter 2, verse 21. It says,
Peter.
1 Peter chapter 2, verse 21.
And viewers, if you'd like to follow along, we'd love it if you'd open your Bibles as well.
Yeah, it says, "To this you were called, because Christ suffered for you, leaving you an example that you should follow in his steps." So, following the example that Christ has set for us, we're to follow in his steps. What are his steps? What were his steps? Well, we go back and look through all the Gospels to see what did Christ do when he was in here in person with us, or generally what did he do? He came down from the throne of the universe and wrapped himself up in our broken flesh and our broken clothes and broken system, broken homes, and made himself vulnerable for us. He came down to our level, and that's a model for what it's like for this fostering. Is okay. We come from very good homes where we had great upbringings. We've had, I don't know, I wouldn't say spoiled, but
Relatively easy lives.
Yeah, relatively easy lives and stuff. To leave the comfort of that and come down to the level of these little ones who are in these broken situations. That's exactly what Christ did for us. He came down to that level to minister to us. So, yeah.
Can you identify more than with the situation that they're in because of the close connection that you have?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much easier. I mean, from a distance, it seems like those families are so different, but when you get up close to them, it's easy to love people up close. When you see them in their humanness and realize, they have maybe come from a harder situation than you, these parents especially, and yet realizing that they're just like me. They've come through a different upbringing, but we're not that different, and we need Jesus' grace just as much as they do.
Sounds like you guys are living out the gospel. Yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
That is the goal.
Yeah. Just giving the riches of yourself, your experience, your history to someone who is not as privileged.
Yeah, and it does in many times feel like we're privileged, and yet when we're put in these situations where we're challenged, like we referenced earlier, you realize how incredibly inadequate we are. Incredibly inadequate.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where you think you're pretty great until you see Jesus,
It's true.
and see how much you lack. And I feel like parenting in general and foster care in specific brings you face to face with those inadequacies and puts you on the same level as everyone around you.
Amen. And it also reminds me of the phrase where it says, when our weakness is placed in Christ, that's when we're made strong. And Christ's grace is sufficient for us. And that we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us.
Absolutely.
In 1 John 3, 16, 17, and 18, there's another verse that has spoken to us in this journey. And it says, "This is how we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid down his life for us, and we ought to lay our lives down for our brothers. If anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? Dear children, let us not love with words or tongue, but with actions and in truth." And I think that's the simplest answer to why we're doing this, is because the babies need us. Do we need more of an answer than that? We're able to help, and they need help. And I think that, again, going back to how we got into it, partially because we started realizing that other people just like us were fostering. And that's one thing I hope to convey to anyone watching, is that you don't have to be able to take 6 kids. You don't have to be able to, maybe you're terrified of taking in teenagers in foster care. Well, maybe some of your assumptions may not be true, and maybe you'd have a wonderful experience with teenagers. But also, you don't have to children of every age who need help. Maybe you think, well, I can't, spend months without sleep taking in a newborn. Well, that's fine. There's plenty of other children that need help. But I do believe that God gives us grace for every day, for the things that we face. You may not feel qualified for what you'll face down the road, and that's okay, because in the moment, that day, God will help you.
That's fantastic advice for couples who are also considering it, or they feel the tug in their heart, like, maybe we should talk about it, we should think about it. That sometimes you don't have to get like a van load, coming into the house. Although some people do it and it works out.
Absolutely.
Works out. But sometimes the Lord asks us to take the small step and see how things go. Is there other advice that you would also give to other people who are considering it? My sister is also interested in fostering and adopting, so it's nice to hear another voice. Yeah. Is there other advice to a couple who might hear this that you guys could give?
I would say contact one or more agencies in the area. If you are a believer, look for Christian agencies especially, and ask them if you can just attend an orientation or better yet, a support group. Because then you'll hear from foster parents who are currently in the trenches. You'll get to have some of your questions answered, see what it's really like. Just start learning more about it. You don't have to immediately commit. We spent about 3 or 4 months just researching before we even went to an orientation.
Wow.
So it's okay to take it slow. You definitely want to be sure that your heart is in it before you have that child placed in your home. So it's okay to take all the time you need before you get to that point.
Absolutely.
You shared with us your experience with baby C, your first baby. Can you share some of the differences now with this is your current and second
Yes.
baby, baby M?
Baby M, yes. So we planned on taking a couple weeks of a break after baby C left our home, a couple days before Christmas. However, the morning after Christmas, we got a call about a little baby boy, premature, who they couldn't find a placement for. Because at Christmas time, it was very difficult, very challenging to find anyone who would take a newborn premature baby. And that tugged on our hearts. And so later that evening, baby M came to our home.
That fast?
That fast, yes.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
It happens very quickly.
Yeah.
And he has been a tremendous blessing. I think one thing I didn't anticipate was after being so invested and so in love with baby C, I didn't realize how much I would fall in love with baby M too. He's such a sweetheart. But it has been much more challenging, partly because he was premature and just had a harder time adjusting to the world, which is normal. You know, he hasn't slept through the night yet, whereas baby C was just such a champion sleeper from like week 2. She was awesome. Not saying he's not awesome, he's just not an awesome sleeper. And so we were just talking about this yesterday. You know, if God in his mercy doesn't allow us to see the future, if we had known when we said yes to him that we wouldn't be sleeping for 3 months, it would have been harder to say yes. But God gives us grace and strength
Amen.
day by day for exactly what we need. But yeah, he's just been so delightful. Such a blessing, so much fun, despite and through all the challenges. I think the challenges that we've faced with him have honestly, I know for me, bonded me more to him because I know how much like he needs us.
Kevin, you were giggling over there a little a second ago. Is there something that you'd like to share, your time with baby M?
Well, I think you summed it up pretty well. It's a very different experience. It's a very, very different baby and a very different situation that he came from. But yeah, God gives us grace by day. Yeah. I don't think when we started foster parenting we were ready, and I don't think you can ever be ready. I think, well, yeah, you just kind of go for it. And God gives you what you need to get through it. Yeah, like we would wonder that, like, oh, when's the right time? When are we going to be ready to do this? Like, there's never really a time to be ready for it. You just do. Yeah, you just answer the calling. So
it's a refreshing perspective that you gave too, that actually it was a blessing that you didn't know. I think oftentimes we just say, oh, if I had only known. If I had only known. But no, there are certain things that God wants to keep from us. Perhaps we're not ready at the time, just like Jesus with his disciples. And I think there is a blessing in that as well. It grows your faith at the same time.
Very much so. It teaches you to live in the moment too.
yeah,
Absolutely.
rely on him. Yeah, absolutely.
Within 30 seconds or so, what kind of support have you received from your parents and from close friends?
It's been amazing.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both sets of our parents have
Both
been
sets.
tremendously
Amen.
supportive.
Okay.
Unfortunately, his family's across the country, but
Okay.
through FaceTime and sending gifts, they've and just daily support, they've been
Yeah.
wonderful.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. My little sister coming out. Yeah, she flew cross country. My little sister, she saved up all summer to get a plane ticket to come out to help us for a week. And it's such a huge blessing. Yeah.
We've
Amen.
been so grateful for our family, our church family, and our friends' support. That's been
Absolutely.
invaluable.
Amen. Thank you guys so much for sharing such a your beautiful family and also beautiful ministry. And hopefully you guys can also be a part of that if the Lord leads you. If you're interested, please look online, as they mentioned, on other Christian agencies if that's where God is leading you. Please join us again next time for how God is leading other people to testify of his love.